body and grinding down the center.
Okay, we'll start with this. It's official, and it has been officially announced, though it comes as no surprise to me. Mikaela Mayer versus Alicia Baumgardner will, in fact, be landing on the undercard of Shields versus Marshall. Two very big fights, very important fights in the sport of women's boxing.
It's a package deal the way I told you, the way I've been telling you. It's a package deal.
Set to go down September 10th at the O2 Arena in London.
I want to see episodes of The Gloves Are Off with Johnny Nelson.
Between now
And September 10th, I want to see both girls, both champions, sit down face to face with each other for a segment of The Gloves Are Off, because the beef between them, it's real, it's organic, they're not putting on. I want to see Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields sit down with each other. I want to see Alicia Baumgardner and Mikaela Mayer sit down with each other. And I want them to mince words. I want them to hash it out.
If you want to sell this thing, that's what you got to do.
It'll go a long way. There's nothing theatrical about what you see between Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields. There's nothing theatrical about what you see between Mikaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgardner. These are highly skilled fighters, highly skilled athletes, trained, that genuinely don't like each other.
So you let them tread a couple of bobs ahead of the fight, that makes for great TV.
Sky Sports is doing a fight, right?
Right.
As a matter of fact, who the fuck needs Johnny Nelson? Get Natasha Jonas to do it. Who doesn't love Natasha Jonas?
I fucking love Natasha.
Doesn't love Natasha Jonas as far as the fight.
Fight
Between Mikaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgardner. Well, it's just as hard a fight to call as Marshall versus Shields. In all honesty, Mikaela Mayer, whether you like her or not, she's a very capable fighter, very capable boxer. She can keep it long and loose on the outside or tight and tense, mid-range to inside. She's durable enough to bang in the booth, but well-schooled enough to keep it long and loose and stay behind the jab.
Move and punch and walk the other girl into shots. She's got a height advantage on Alicia Baumgardner.
She's a little taller, a little longer legs make for longer strides.
I think the edge in experience, a slight edge in experience, has to go to Mikaela Mayer. She's fought two active reigning world champions.
With two very different base styles. Polar opposites, really. Iva Brutnicka and Maiva Hamadouche, who Mikaela Mayer won her two alphabet titles from. Iva Brutnicka is your, according to Hoyle, pure boxer, completely defensively minded, not an artillery fighter. Defense first, whereas Maiva Hamadouche is the exact opposite, the kind of fighter that throws caution to the wind, to trade punches mid-range to inside. In both fights, Mikaela Mayer won convincingly.
That speaks to how versatile she is as a fighter.
Equally good as both the aggressor and the defender, though. That's not saying that Alicia Baumgardner hasn't amassed invaluable experiences as a professional herself. The fight she lost with Christina Linarda, too, it may not have gone her way, but the fact she was able to finish a fight...
A lot of other girls would have got knocked out by that same Christina Linarda, too.
A fight that Alicia took on very early in her career. A fight that she lost, but a fight, I think, made her a better fighter overall.
We all saw what she did to Terry Harper.
The task set before Alicia Baumgardner is to make it clear, make it clean, and make it decisive. You can't afford to coast against Mikaela Mayer, who in many ways is the house fighter, thus the onus.
I mean, yeah, they're doing this thing on Sky Sports by way of a boxer show, a boxer promotion.
Sky Sports is in bed with Top Rank. Sky Sports is Top Rank's UK broadcast partner, and Mikaela Mayer just so happens to be a Top Rank fighter, so in many ways, she is the house fighter going into this thing.
There is no one-size-fits-all answer to beating a fighter like Mikaela Mayer.
In some ways, she's got two base styles, and the mystery is knowing which one she means to use against Alicia Baumgardner and when, because that directly affects how Alicia must prepare for Mikaela. She's got to have two game plans, essentially.
One where Alicia might have to bust through the front door, and another where she might have to be ready for Mikaela to come through it.
Another game plan where it's Mikaela Mayer that wants to get front foot heavy, wants to be the aggressor, and flush monster, Alicia Baumgardner, who's more of a sharpshooter than a Gatling gun. She's not the most prolific puncher. She does a lot of punch picking, and she's very accurate when she's got the room and the real estate to do so. So what happens if Michaela tries to crowd her? What if she tries to bang in the booth the way she did with Maiva Hamadouche? Perhaps Alicia won't be expecting that, or perhaps she will. We don't know.
That's why we watch, in order to find out.
I think Michaela will prove to be more durable than Terry Harper. I think she takes a better punch than Terry, but I think Alicia Baumgardner, she's got to get the edge in speed and the edge in athleticism. Her movements seem somewhat more fluid than Michaela's.
Though Michaela is a more prolific puncher, a busier puncher. She's got some engine.
Saw that in the Maiva Hamadouche fight, the feverish pace of that match. We know Michaela can throw punches in bunches if the situation calls for it.
Can Alicia deal with a statuesque, physically imposing fighter that's trying to crowd her? Can she manage the distance?
There are a lot of intangibles in association with this match, as there are often a lot of intangibles associated with big fights between very good fighters, elite fighters. It's not just one way. You can make a credible argument for either fighter to win this thing.
Edge and power still goes to Baumgartner. I think punch for punch, she hits harder than Michaela does.
I'm looking forward to it. Keep your eyes peeled for Baumgardner versus Mayer, September 10th on the undercard of Shields versus Marshall. In men's super flyweight news, what could be flyweight news, Robert Gershis stated he wants to see Jesse Bam Rodriguez drop back down to flyweight.
Story from Anthony Cox by way of Ring News 24.
Story that was published approximately 4 to 5 days ago. I honestly do want to see him go back down to 112 pounds. Robert Garcia told Little Giant Boxing, if there's a champion at 112 that is willing to fight, we would love to. One target for Rodriguez could be the WBC flyweight champion Julio Cesar Martinez, but Garcia isn't confident that that fight can easily be made. The 27-year-old Mexican has developed a reputation for pulling out of fights. I don't want to mention names because at the end,
they're looking to reschedule that McWilliams-Arroyo fight.
Julio Cesar Martinez, the reigning WBC flyweight champion, has a mandatory challenger in McWilliams-Arroyo, and they're in the process of rescheduling the fight between them. McWilliams-Arroyo isn't just anybody, you understand. That's Julio's mandatory challenger. They can't just bypass him and substitute him with Bam. Bam doesn't hold a world title at flyweight. It's not a unification match.
Probably seemed like it was an easy fight to make because both Julio and Bam are matchroom fighters, but Julio's got work needs doing.
I don't want to mention names because at the end, the WBC would be the easiest one, but with Ray Martinez, we don't know if he's going to make weight, if he's going to fight, if he's going to get sick. He's done it many times, so I really don't know, Garcia said, and he's quite right. This is the third time they've had to reschedule this fight between Julio Cesar Martinez, the reigning champion, and McWilliams-Arroyo, his mandatory challenger.
They're in the process of doing that right now. He's not available for Bam.
Silver lining is that there are 3 other champions available at flyweight for Bam Rodriguez to fight for if and when he descends to 112 pounds.
Get one of those guys in the ring. Fight them for their belt.
I'm delighted to sign with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and so excited for the future, said Rodriguez. Last night was the best night of my career so far, the night that he beat Sorun Visai. Beating a great fighter like Rumvisai in my hometown, but it's only the beginning, and there's so much more that I can achieve. I was so happy because there were a lot of people doubting me before last night, saying that I shouldn't be at 115 pounds and that Rumvisai was going to KO me. So for me to stop him, that's a big statement. He has boxed the very best at super flyweight and has not been stopped since his first 2 fights, so that says a lot about me. I knew I could stop him. I said so in the build-up. So to do it, I'm very happy. He packs a punch. I knew that, and I could feel it. So I was glad to get him out of there. We will talk as a team, but I want to keep coming home to San Antonio. I hope everyone that came enjoyed the show. It means everything to me for my city to show out. The plan has been to go to 112 pounds and win a title there. But I'm open to fighting anyone. I want to keep improving and fighting the best. Every fighter wants to be on that pound-for-pound list, and you get there by fighting the best and beating them.
He just beat 2 of the best super flyweights the super flyweight division seen in the last, 10 years or so.
Those kinds of performances that young Bam Rodriguez is putting on that would cause many a fight fan and many a pundit to favor him against anyone at flyweight, since he's done so well at super flyweight against bigger and more proven fighters.
There are 4 active reigning world champions in the flyweight division for Bam to choose from.
The one among them, at least right now, is preoccupied. Enter the United Kingdom's own IBF champion, Sonny Edwards.
Sonny seems to want to fight with Bam, and Bam seems to want to fight with Sonny.
Very interesting fight. Stylistically intriguing. Two unbeaten guys at the pinnacle of performance, at the height of their powers, in their prime. I'd like to see a fight like this.
When last we saw Sonny, he was headlining a Pro Bellum show against Muhammad Wasim.
One-sided decision win for Sonny, as Muhammad Wasim, he just wasn't in his class, wasn't on his level. Potential fight with Bam Rodriguez. Where would that take place? Because I'm not going to beat around the bush. Pro Bellum being rumored, being suspected to be in association with Daniel Kinahan. The U.S. sanctions that have been levied against Daniel and a reported 600 other people.
What, you think Sonny Edwards is one of those people?
Something to think about? I wouldn't rule it out. Bam says he wants to fight in San Antonio. Is Sonny Edwards able to fly over to America to fight him in San Antonio, or would a fight between them take place in the United Kingdom?
I'm challenging for unification, I'm chasing unifications, and finally, after like what seems like the last 18 months at least, probably longer, sort of shouting in an empty room, the phone started ringing, and then started offering up dates and areas of the world that we might have to be travelling to. So if anything, like, this is the best and most excited I've been about boxing, point blank period. I'm in the big time conversations now. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I'm at. And the figures are big time figures, and this do you know what I mean? It's all good, and I'm in a position where now we're talking about what card, where we're doing it. Do you know what I mean? So with the biggest names and biggest promoters in boxing. So, and I'm a flyweight that no one knows, hasn't got a career, fights in front of 20 people and can't punch and all of the above. But I've got phone calls from the biggest promoters in the world this week, do you know what I mean? So
that soundbite comes to us by way of Boxing UK here on YouTube. They spoke with Sonny Edwards very recently, and you heard what he said. He mentioned unification matches, different locations around the world. I don't get the sense, listening to that soundbite, that the United States was one of them, was one of those locations. More importantly, Sonny said unification matches. That would involve another champion, not just Sonny. As it stands, Bam Rodriguez holds a title at super flyweight, not flyweight. So to what champion is Sonny Edwards referring to?
Presumably one at flyweight. Artem Dalakian holds WBA.
No, Julio Cesar Martinez, who holds WBC, he's preoccupied, so he's not in the running.
Even though Sonny Edwards has claimed he's wanted to fight with that guy for some time. Vengeance for what Julio did to his brother.
In any event, Julio's not available. That leaves only the reigning WBO champion, Junto Nakatani. Was it Junto Nakatani that Sonny Edwards was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see Sonny Edwards fight either one of those guys, either Junto Nakatani or Artem Dalakian.
So what if it's Artem Dalakian that Sonny Edwards ends up fighting? And what if Bam Rodriguez, upon his descent to the flyweight division, he takes on the winner of Martinez versus Arroyo, or he takes on Junto Nakatani for Junto Nakatani's WBO title? I think a fight like that, it's almost too good to be true. Two unbeaten guys in their prime like that, big punchers. Junto Nakatani is a big guy for flyweight.
It's very hard to know who's going to end up fighting who right now.
Bam seems open to a Sonny Edwards fight, and Sonny's willing to oblige him, though at the same time, Sonny's talking about unification matches, and Bam ain't got a title at flyweight for him to unify with. We'll see what shakes out.
We'll see who ends up fighting who later on this year.
And finally, Eddie Hearn had this to say about Canelo Alvarez. He says, Canelo has to be respected for picking Bivol instead of Churlo, and I expressed this sentiment ahead of the fight. If Canelo Alvarez really wanted to pick a cherry, and he wanted to go the easy route, he would have picked Cherry Charlo, not a naturally bigger guy in light heavyweight.
A naturally bigger guy in the light heavyweight in his prime.
Hearn was quoted as saying, for Canelo's next 3 fights, Gennady Golovkin, Dmitry Bivol, and I think Benavidez is a big fight. In time, said Hearn to the DAZN boxing show. When Canelo signed a 2-fight agreement with Hearn, he was also presented with a very lucrative deal from Premier Boxing Champions, which included fights with Benavidez and undefeated middleweight champion Jermell Charlo. Canelo decided to go in the direction of fighting Bivol and Golovkin.
The Bivol fight is a more difficult fight than a fight with Benavidez or a fight with Charlo.
But if you let Canelo Alvarez's critics tell the story, they thought that Dmitry Bivol was a cherry until the night of the fight. Then their views on that fighter drastically changed. Here on the channel, I told you ahead of the fight. I told you ahead of time, the moment that Dmitry Bivol's name was in the running for Canelo Alvarez's next fight, I told you it's a fight that he could end up losing.
Admittedly, I picked Canelo Alvarez to win on points.
I didn't think he could hurt Dmitry Bivol.
Nope.
Didn't think he could knock him out, but at minimum, what I thought is he could be the more prolific puncher to the eye, the busier puncher, and he wasn't able to execute such a plan. Size,
Too much.
durability, and movement of Dmitry Bivol, the ring savvy, it was too much for Canelo Alvarez. When people talk about how Canelo should fight Benavidez and Charlo,
Which would be voluntary defenses of his 168-pound titles.
it doesn't stoke anything in Canelo. When we talk about Bivol, Canelo likes the idea of going up to 175 pounds and challenging. Someone, Hearn said, maybe Canelo shouldn't have. Maybe he should have just boxed Charlo. But we have to respect the guy because it's like he wants to handicap himself. And going up there, standing at what, 5'7", 5'8" at best.
You need me to tell you that Canelo doesn't have the physical dimensions of a light heavyweight.
Now these two big for nothings, Jermall Charlo, David Benavidez, those guys have bigger frames than Canelo Alvarez does, yet they don't want to set foot in the light heavyweight division, so that when Canelo goes there and he falters and he loses, you give him flack? Hell, at least he tried.
They give Canelo Alvarez a hard time for losing to Dmitry Bivol, but they don't want to see David go up there and fight him. They don't want to see Jermall go up there and fight him either.
What does that tell you? These are not boxing fans. These are narrative pushers and propaganda peddlers.
I've said it before, and I'll say it here and now. I'll say it again.
And I'll say it till it registers. I'll say it again and again until it sticks.
You gotta beat the man to be the man, right? Well, Canelo Alvarez was the man.
Dmitry Bivol is the man that beat him. So why wouldn't you want to see David Benavidez versus Dmitry Bivol? Why wouldn't you want to see Jermall Charlo versus that same guy, that same Dmitry Bivol? According to you guys, Canelo Alvarez is a hype job, and he's no good, yet you're still using his name.
You're still using his name as an excuse for those two guys to not fight nobody.
Not on your side of the street. Is that no longer an issue anymore? Is that not a thing? Seems to be what held up the Crawford fight for the last 4 years, the Crawford versus Spence fight.
I say that Canelo Alvarez stays at super middleweight and tells those guys if they want to fight him, they gotta come to the zone.
Don't kid yourself. Canelo Alvarez using that exact same base style, the one that failed him against Dmitry Bivol, it'd work against the Jermall Charlo because he's not as good a fighter, not as durable.
Not getting lumped up by Juan Montielli, ain't.
David Benavidez fight, trickier fight, bigger guy, more durability, and more punching power. But better still, David Benavidez, he's not a guy that uses his height to manage the distance. No, he gives it up.
Not a guy who's on the balls of his feet, moving in and out of range, keeping the punches short.
Short enough that they are hard to counter. Quite the opposite. David Benavidez barrels forward, bearing down on his opponents. And it just so happens that Canelo Alvarez is a very talented counter puncher. David would give him quite a bit.
He'd give Canelo a lot of countering opportunities.
Given the guys that David fights, he's not a guy who's used to return fire.
Guys being able to fight back.
Canelo should stay put and fight them.